wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Shakina binti Abdurrani. My metric number is 060084. Okay, for part A, I will explain more about crime of aggression. Okay, for introduction, a crime of aggression or crime against peace is the preparation, instigation, or execution of a large scale and significant act of aggression employing state armed force. Aggression is usually viewed as a crime under customary international law. However, there is no universally accepted definition and no international court or tribunal that may punish offenders at the moment. It is legally within the ICC's jurisdiction, but the court cannot use its jurisdiction unless and until the parties to the ICC statutes agree on a definition of the crime as well as the conditions under which the court may exercise its jurisdiction. For the definition, Article 8 bis of the Rome Statute defines the crime of aggression as the planning, preparation, initiation, or execution by a person in a position effectively to exercise control over or to direct the political or military action of a state of an act of aggression which constitutes a manifest violation of the Charter of the United States of the United Nations. I'm sorry. In essence, the crime of aggression as defined in the Rome Statute is a crime committed against the sovereignty of a state. But in today's world, war cannot be simplified to fighting between states. Non-state actors, including non-state armed groups and corporations, are increasingly entangled in armed conflicts around the globe. In light of the complexity of contemporary warfare and the involvement of non-state actors in armed conflicts, the limited nature of liability for the crime of aggression is regrettably inadequate. Okay, next is the crime of aggression and International Criminal Court. Aggression is a type of leadership crime. A suspect must be in a position to effectively exercise control over or to influence the political or military activity of a state. Non-governmental players such as armed organizations engaging in armed conflicts and private economy operators have been argued should be excluded unless a state party has already declared that it does not accept jurisdiction. The court may only exercise jurisdiction over an act of aggression committed by the state party. This means that there is no jurisdiction. This means that there is no jurisdiction for the crime of aggression against non-state parties or state parties who have opted out. In the situation of a UN Security Council referral, the same procedural conditions are applicable. The prosecutor must ascertain whether the Security Council has made a determination of an act of aggression by the state concerned and notify the UN Secretary General of the situation before the court. If not, the prosecutor may only proceed 6 months after the date of notification and with authorization of the pre-trial division of the court. Next is trials against offenders of the crime of aggression may be found in the Nuremberg and Tokyo tribunals jurisprudence. Rudolf Hess was the only Nuremberg defendant convicted only of crimes against the peace, whereas 11 other defendants, including Hermann Göring, were punished for both crimes against humanity and standard war crimes. The International Military Tribunal for the Far East convicted 23 defendants, including Hideki Tojo, of conducting aggressive war, as detailed in paragraph 4 of the same article. Next is individual responsibility. Article 25, subsection 3 bis appears to limit individual responsibility for aggressions crime in an unusual way, except for those in a position effectively to exercise control or direct state and military action. It precludes the possibility of accessory liability. The Nuremberg tribunals considered whether non-government officials, including industrialists, could be held accountable for the crime of aggression. According to Rome Statute Article 25, subsection 3, an individual is liable if she contributes to the commission or attempt commission of a crime, and the contribution is both intentional and made with the intent of furthering the criminal activity or criminal purpose of the group. This type of accessory liabilities is analogous to the Nuremberg precedent. For uncontroversial non-criminal conduct, an arms dealer may satisfy all of the elements for 25 subsection 3D liability. The analysis will remain unchanged if state A committed crimes against humanity or genocide rather than war crimes. It is unnecessary to limit the modes of liability for the crimes of aggression to those with the ability to direct or control state action. Okay, next question is what an ICC prosecute. The offense does not have retrospective effect, and the ICC's prosecutorial power is limited to crimes of aggression committed 1 year after ratification or acceptance of the amendments by 30 states parties. Next is who can ICC prosecute? Okay, if a case is initiated by an ICC prosecutor or referred by a state, the court's power to prosecute offences of aggression will only apply to crimes committed on the territory or by nationals of states which have accepted the Article 8 bis amendment, as the Rome Statutes make it possible for parties to opt out at a later date. The scope of the ICC's power in this arena may change over time. Nonetheless, where a case is referred to the ICC by the UN Security Council, the ICC will have jurisdiction to prosecute regardless whether the state has accepted or opted out of the amendment. Okay, next question is where is crime of aggression will be prosecuted? Okay, the review conference also determined the circumstances under which the ICC will be permitted to investigate and punish acts of aggression. It is a complicated legal system contained in two articles of the Rome Statute, which is Article 15 bis and Article 15 ter, which reflects a compromise and varies from the regime in place for the three other basic offences in numerous ways, which is genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. The Assembly of States Parties resolved in 2017 to active the ICC jurisdiction over the crime of aggression on 17 July 2018. Okay, Article 15 bis has 10 article that okay, for the first one is the court may exercise jurisdiction over the crime of aggression in accordance with Article 13, paragraph A and C, subject to the provisions of this article. The court may exercise jurisdiction only with respect to crimes of aggression committed 1 year after the ratification or acceptance of the amendments by 30 state parties. The court shall exercise jurisdiction over the crime of aggression in accordance with this article, subject to a decision to be taken after 1st January 2017 by the same majority of state party as is required for the adoption of an amendment to the statute. The court may, in accordance with Article 12, exercise jurisdiction over a crime aggression arising from an act of aggression committed by a state party unless that state party has previously declared that it does not accept such jurisdiction by lodging a declaration with the registrar. The withdrawal of such declaration may be effected at any time and shall be considered by the state party within 3 years. In respect of a state that is not a party to this statute, the court shall not exercise its jurisdiction over the crime of aggression when committed by that state's national or on its territory, where the prosecutors conclude that there is a reasonable basis to proceed with an investigation in respect of a crime of aggression, he or she shall first ascertain whether the Security Council has made a determination of an act of aggression committed by the state concerned. The prosecutor shall notify the Secretary General of the United Nations of the situation before the court, including any relevant information and documents. Where the Security Council has made such a determination, the prosecutor may proceed with the investigation in respect of a crime of aggression. Where no such determination is made within 6 months after the date of notification, the prosecutor may proceed with the investigation in respect of crime of aggression, provided that the pre-trial division has authorized the commencement of the investigation in respect of a crime of aggression in accordance with the procedure contained in Article 15, and the Security Council has not decided otherwise in accordance with Article 16. A determination of an act of aggression by an organ outside the court shall be without prejudice to the cause on finding under this statute. This article is without prejudice to the provision relating to the exercise of jurisdiction with respect to other crimes referred to in Article 5. Okay, next is Article 15 ter. The court may exercise jurisdiction over the crime of aggression in accordance with Article 13, paragraph B, subject to the provision of this article. The court may exercise jurisdiction only with respect to crimes of aggression committed 1 year after the ratification or acceptance of the amendments by 30 state parties. The court shall exercise jurisdiction over the crime of aggression in accordance with this article, subject to a decision to be taken after 1st January 2017 by the same majority of state parties as it is required for the adoption of an amendment to the statute. A determination of an act of aggression by an organ outside the court shall be without prejudice to the court's own findings under this statute. This article is without prejudice to the provisions relating to the exercise of jurisdiction with respect to other crimes referred in Article 5. Okay, for the conclusion, the crime of aggression is specified in Article 8 bis of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, which was agreed at the 2010 review conference in Kampala. Essentially, three things are required. First, the culprit must be political or military leader. For example, a person in a position effectively to exert control over or to guide the political or military activity of a state. Secondly, the court must establish that the offender was engaged in the planning, preparation, start, or execution of such an act of aggression by the state. Third, such a state conduct must constitute an act of aggression as defined in General Assembly Resolution 3314, and it must be clear breach of the UN Charter in terms of character, seriousness, and size. This indicates that only the most serious kinds of illegal use of force between states can be brought before the court. Cases of justifiable individual or collective self-defense, as well as Security Council authorized action, are therefore explicitly prohibited. Before I end this presentation, let's see this.
Singapore is a staunch supporter of international law and the UN Charter, which prohibits acts of aggression against a sovereign state. And that's why we've strongly condemned the unprovoked attack by Russia on Ukraine. The sovereignty, political independence, and territorial integrity of all countries, big and small, must be respected. The unprovoked military invasion of a sovereign country under any pretext is unacceptable. The war in the Ukraine has implications for the Asia-Pacific. There are potential flashpoints and contentious issues in our region too, which, if not managed well, could escalate to open conflict. Countries with interests in the region need to pursue all efforts to settle disagreements through peaceful means so that we can avoid reaching a point of no return.
That's all from me. Thank you for listening. Bye.